Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Excuse me! Taxi!
Come on, where you going? This is the 77 WABC minicast.
The other big story, of course, is China. And joining us now to talk about all of that is Gordon Chang. President Trump arrived in Beijing a couple hours ago, got a beautiful welcome, but tomorrow is the big meetings. And Gordon, there's a big story that just came out from the New York Times that Chinese firms are plotting arms sales to Iran, according to U.S. officials in the New York Times. What do you know, Gordon?
Well, that's certainly been the case because China has been supplying Iran with arms before the war and also during the war, in all probability, because we saw those Chinese military transport planes arriving in Iran after turning off their transponders. Military transports usually bring military equipment. And we know that this is important equipment because at the third week of March, the Iranians announced that they had launched cruise missiles at the USS Abraham Lincoln. President Trump said 101 anti-ship cruise missiles were launched. Iran doesn't make anti-ship cruise missiles. Iran, however, does have Chinese CM-302 anti-ship cruise missiles. So, yeah, they've been doing that.
Wow. So remember there was that ship too, also, Gordon. We talked about that. They stopped a ship and President Trump described it with not so nice information, not so nice materials on it. What do you think was on that ship?
It could have been anything, Rita. We don't know from reporting, but we do know that clearly it was military equipment. President Trump threatened to impose an additional 50% tariff on the goods from any country that continued to sell Iran military equipment. I think the president needs to actually impose that tariff because if he doesn't, the Chinese are going to think his warnings are hollow. This is going to cause consternation. Beijing is going to be enraged. But remember, we're talking about putting the lives of American servicemen and women at risk. We have the means to stop this, and we don't do it. I think it's important for us to be as good as our word.
Do you think it's going to get to that? And I think there will be some very feisty, contentious discussions with Xi and with President Trump to some of those issues that you just talked about. And also, what can Xi deliver in terms of Iran? I mean, obviously, they're the biggest buyer of oil. They exert enormous pressure to Iran. But what do you see him delivering on their end?
Well, I see President Trump putting a lot of pressure on Iran. Because remember, President Trump walks into this summit with a superior bargaining position. You know, what the Chinese do, Xi Jinping is extremely arrogant right now. And I don't think Xi Jinping completely understands the weakness of his position, because for more than a decade, this guy has been saying that the East is rising and the West is falling. And he also believes the United States is in terminal decline. So he doesn't respect any American president. And I think that he fundamentally misunderstands and overestimates his own strength. And he fundamentally underestimates the strength of free societies, especially the United States. That's been a weakness of every Chinese leader, but especially the current one.
Gordon, John Katzmatidis, what I said before, and I'm not sure you were able to listen, is that the fact I think President Trump is there purely on an economic mission. But Iran is going to come up. And if I was President Trump, and I'm not, President Trump thinks on his own, and I think on my own, but I would think that he'd say, look, let's make peace in Iran, but it's going to be your responsibility for X, Y, and Z. In other words, China's responsibility that Iran behaves himself. What do you think? Do you think there's a possibility?
Well, there's a possibility of this because everything, I think, is open. Most summits are canned. Everything is decided beforehand, not this summit. And the reason I think that is because both China and Iran have been China and the United States have been putting costs on each other beforehand. So I don't think they've had time to settle everything. But I think President Trump is going to make it very clear to the Chinese. And if I were Xi Jinping, I would take the warning seriously.
And in addition, if President Trump can make a deal with China and Russia and end the Ukraine war and the Iranian war and have world peace between the three world powers, then I think the world will have the best economy it ever had.
Yes. I mean, there would be an explosion of business activity around the world. Right now, you can see that companies are shortening their supply chains because they're worried about geopolitical tension, as they very well should, because the skies and seas are no longer reliably safe. We've got the problems.
Yeah, I mean, and the way I look at it, I mean, they're going to restrict, if China has overseeing powers over Iran, they're going to restrict anything nuclear in Iran. And definitely none under Iranian power. I mean, it's going to be China's responsibility.
Yes, it is. And the reason why Iran has a nuclear weapons program, and we've got to be clear about this, is because China supplied it both directly and indirectly.
I believe
to
that.
The AQCon nuclear black market. So, yeah, we need to hold the Chinese accountable for this, because there would be no war in Iran right now if China weren't backing the mullahs.
Rudy Washington.
Yeah, Gordon, I'm of a different opinion. I think the president goes over there and he doesn't lead with Iran. I think he knows he's holding the cards.
Yes.
And they're going to have to come to him. And when they do, he's simply going to tell them, well, look, yeah, we could do a deal. You tell them to open straits up, get out of the way, surrender their nukes, and everything that the president wants.
And Rudy, I agree with that. But if the vision from 100,000 feet up is that with China, they can have nukes on an aircraft carrier in the Strait of Hormuz if they wanted to, just about. And maybe not there, but China is going to be responsible to make sure Iran behaves himself.
Yeah, and I think the president already made a decision that he's tried his best to negotiate a peace. It hasn't worked, and when he comes back, watch out.
Yeah, or maybe the minute he takes off from Beijing. It might even happen that way.
I don't think President Trump wants more bombings.
No, he doesn't.
I think he'd love to avoid it.
He
I
wants to
agree.
avoid it, John.
Let's say we're going to know in a few days who's right and wrong.
Yeah, I agree. He would love to have peace, but peace through strength. That's the way he works.
Or peace through strength, or making it the responsibility of China.
That would be, boy, the way. If we can trust them, that would be good.
It's a big if, don't you think, Rita?
It's called a huge if.
You're going to trust China to police Iran? Please.
Did you hear what I said? That's a big if, too. I'm with you. All right, guys. Gordon, thank you. Well, let's see what happens. This is going to be fascinating. And we love you, Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. Your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.